All right, since this session is being recorded, I'm just going to suggest we get started, and anyone that does show up a little bit later can obviously watch the recording after. You're all here for CloudExtend Excel for NetSuite Office Hours. This is our third office hours that we've done so far, something we just started last quarter. And we're going to keep doing this every single month, so thank you for attending and being loyal customers. Today, we have Kevin Ha, Joseph Yeager, and myself. So Kevin, many of you may know of your existing customers. Kevin is our solution consultant. He really helps when you have issues building templates, etc. He's there to help you be successful. Joseph Yeager, also there, right? Customer success to help you be successful. So as you move throughout your subscription during the renewal process, Joseph is there to make sure that goes smoothly. If you have any questions about where to get help for something, he's there as well. And then many of you may know me as well. I'm the general manager for the Siligo CloudExtend brand. There is a Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom chat window. So there's like, I think a Zoom chat, but there's also Q&A. I do want to encourage everyone to use the Q&A icon to submit any questions. Submit them now if you have some, and then we can also submit them. You can also submit them during the next 30 minutes as well. So today I'm going to give some tips on maximizing performance, show how you can, a lot of times this is one of the most common questions we get. Someone adds a new field in NetSuite, but it doesn't show up on the template. Easy fix for that. I'll talk a little bit about the amount field and some gotchas there. I do want to spend a little time on something we have that's new called burst mode. That's a really cool feature. It's been a long time coming. Talk about downloading data in a fast format, which is raw data, versus downloading it into templates. And then Kevin's going to jump on, and Kevin's going to talk about fulfilling orders and how you can do that with related records. So if you've got a sales order, now you're going to have a fulfillment record based on that sales order. And I'll also show you how you can get a look at our roadmap and then also submit ideas. And then we'll go through any Q&A that you've got as well. So please keep the questions coming. So with regards to maximizing performance, on upserts, this is the most useful tip that I think I could offer. So if you do happen to know the internal ID of a record, and I should go back one step. So the idea of these office hours is that people have used our application before. If you haven't, then I think you'll still get something out of this. You just may need to, if you need more help, just reach out, and we're happy to do a one-on-one with you as well. So let's just say you've got a sales order and you've got, say, 30 items on it. You can put in just the item names, and then you can tab off the field, or you can put all 30 in at once, and then we make 30 calls to NetSuite to try and resolve those. Each one might take 3 to 5 seconds or so. But if you happen to know the internal ID already for those items, all you've got to do is put the IDs in a double left bracket followed by the internal ID, then a double right bracket. That tells our app that, hey, this guy already knows exactly what they want. Don't bother doing any validation ahead of time. And we'll just, when that upsert goes up, we'll go ahead and look for that matching internal ID inside of NetSuite. That is really critical. It kind of goes along with the lines of the second one. And then the second one is, I think, something we do already. So if you did happen to type in, let's say, item A and then press tab or use the pick list at the far right, and I'll show this in the demo as well, that is where we will insert the item ID, the internal ID, and we kind of do it behind the scenes, and I'll show you how you can see that. And one of the things I recommend is if you do have like a large data set, so let's just say you've got, you're going to be uploading, say, 20 different sales orders or 40 different sales orders, and across those orders you might have 200 different items. It's really easy just to download a list of your items using the bulk download feature that I'll show you soon. So you can download those fast, and then just use a VLOOKUP to pull in the internal ID. So that'll save that whole lookup of the internal ID on the way up, just speed things up a little bit. And then also, for every column that you add, there is some extra overhead, especially line level columns. So if you need to only update, say, the header level of a memo field or just a transaction date, don't bother downloading all those line level fields, and you'll see that your updates go much, much faster. And on the download side, We would recommend using either the CloudExtend data filter or a pre-built save search that brings in only the records you want. So if you wanted to update, say, sales orders for the past 2 days, don't download sales orders for the whole month. Just use the data filter to download just the records that you need. Again, the same thing, the columns will have a big impact on the performance. And let's see, and I'm going to go through an example of downloading as raw data later. That's the fastest way to get your data out of NetSuite into Excel. And then that's what you would typically use if you wanted to for that VLOOKUP idea that I had in the upserts. Okay, so moving on. Why don't we get started? I'll share my screen here. And I'm already logged into the app right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and first search for a sales order template that I've built. In fact, before I do that, I'm actually going to open NetSuite here. And I want to add a new transaction body field. I had mentioned that I want to show you guys how you could look up something, kind of override the cache. So I will just call this July 22 body field, and I'm going to apply this to a sales order. And I'll go ahead and click on Save. And then I'm going to come back to Excel, and when I go to load my template, and keep in mind, I am working, when you guys may hear this, if you're on demos with us, we all use NetSuite test drive accounts. They're a little bit slower. So if I start searching for July right here, you can see that I actually did find it this time because I loaded it. I hadn't actually been in the process of doing this. But if for some reason you don't actually see the fields here, that's what these 3 icons here will help you do. Just click those 3 icons and hit refresh, and it goes back out and it builds a new cache for you. So in this instance, I happened to load the all the fields ahead of time. But in any event, that's how you would pull in any new fields that you create. And I don't need to save that field, so I'll get rid of it right there. So now I do want to come in and just talk about this feature that we have, which is the burst mode upload. It's got a few advantages. So here I've got 11 different sales orders. I'll scroll through them. So 10 of these sales orders have 45 lines each. And then the last one actually has 1,350 lines each. So we've got about 1,800 lines all total. Now, I have already resolved these internal IDs as well. So if I want to look at this particular item, you can see, this is what I said before, this is kind of a little tip. You can see that the item is in these double brackets here. So we know that this is already, it's going to be ignored during the upsert process. Now, you could just as easily do this if you wanted to. And that's going to do the exact same thing as if I had used the item name along with the ID. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the burst mode upload. I'm going to go ahead and check off this box, and I'm going to just click on Upsert All Records. So this is going to take all of these 1,800 some odd lines, and it's going to push them up to NetSuite. And it usually takes like 3 or 4 seconds. I must have done something funky when I was setting this up to have it take like the 10 or 15 seconds there. So either way, I mean, if you guys are used to the current upload process, you see that we upload, I think, 25 lines, and then we wait for NetSuite to process it. We upload the next 25, and then we wait for NetSuite to process it. This uses an asynchronous process. And I can come over to NetSuite. If you want to see what's happening behind the scenes, you can go to Setup, Integration, and SOAP Web Services Process Status. And this is where you'll see your async jobs. So let's see here. May not have hit here yet. Today is 7/22. Okay, so here's the job now coming into NetSuite. But from our perspective inside of Excel, we don't even really care. Now we can actually come over and start performing some other task as well. So I have a journal entry here. And on this journal, this is one journal entry, I don't know, 100 or some odd lines. And I just want to show how we can take this journal entry. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to append it to the bottom of this 2,500 line journal entry. And you'll see why I'm doing that in just a second. And I'm going to take this journal entry here, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go to the bottom and append it down here as well. And then I've got one smaller one here as well. And let's just take this journal entry and put it at the bottom. So if you notice here, these are what I would call header level fields. So this is the date, memo, transaction ID. These are all header level fields. So these would be consistent for the number of rows that if when there's a difference, that's going to be what causes our app to signal for another entry to be created. So in this case, we'll go ahead and create this big journal entry up here. Then we'll create a 2-line journal entry. Then we'll go out and we'll create this 16-line journal entry, etc. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Update here. I'm also going to send this up with Burst Mode Upload. And just like that, you know, it's a huge, huge journal entry, 2,502 lines for one, and then the others are a little smaller. And then you can see here the icon number 2, and this is going to give us access to the upload jobs, and this is going to tell us what's been done, what hasn't been done. So you can see it's almost done processing the sales orders. And we'll come back here in a second, and then I'll show you how we actually bring that data back from the sales order. But I did really want to make sure that I highlighted when I was creating this journal entry, this way to differentiate between header level lines and line level lines so that you can submit multiple transactions at the same time. So you can see the same thing with sales orders. We had, you know, one sales order here. So here's the break. The break is in the customer name and the location at the header level field. In fact, if I had even had, I could use the memo field. That's an easy way. So if I had, say, a bunch of different transactions for this same company on the exact same date with the same sales rep, as long as I change something in the header level memo field, which is right here, that would kick off a different transaction. So let's go back to here and see how our sales order job is done. Okay, so that's still running right now. But again, I think the cool thing about this compared to non-burst mode upload is that you can be working on other tabs in the spreadsheet. You don't need to sit there and wait for all these jobs, you know, to be processed 25 records at a time. So I use burst mode almost exclusively myself now when I'm doing updates, demos, etc. Another thing I wanted to talk about was this amount field that NetSuite has. And we do see a lot of customers that drop in the amount field inside of a template. So the amount is typically a calculated field in NetSuite, but it can be overridden. I don't know why NetSuite does this, but you know, for example, if you have a quantity of 3 and a rate of 100, the amount should be 300. But we see people build templates and they'll put in a quantity of 3, a rate of 100, and then they'll have the amount field over here as well, and they'll change that to 100 because it's a little confusing. Is it really the rate or the amount? So just make sure that you always, for me anyway, I don't even put the amount field in there. That eliminates any issues whatsoever. But if you do put the amount field in there, just let, you can either have the math done automatically for you or just leave it empty, and NetSuite will calculate it in the background. So now you can see that my sales order upload is done, all 1,800 some odd lines. So I can click on this download icon. Now it's going back out to NetSuite and it's saying, hey, NetSuite, just bring in all the results from those jobs. As this is going to look familiar in a second. You'll see that we light up the internal ID in green if the upstart is successful, and then we light it up in red and we highlight any issues that you might encounter if there was a problem. I think we write in 500 rows at a time, 500 records at a time, 500 rows when it comes back here. That should finish up there. Okay, so let's see how our journal entry is doing. So journal entry is also done. Now you can notice here, I'm actually on the sales order tab, but if I click this little play icon, it's going to bring me over to the journal entry tab, and now I can click the download icon here, and then we'll get the results from this journal entry as well. So you can see here, they're starting to fill in. These are lit up in green, and I can scroll all the way down if I wanted to and check all the results. But I really just wanted to show you guys how that burst mode actually worked. Okay, well, this is actually good. So now we have operation failed for 260 rows. So we can just kind of scroll down and find out which one of those had the error. Okay, here we go. All right, so this particular journal entry is out of balance. So if I come down here and just total these up, okay, right here, 95, 795, 64. So somehow that's going to be different than what we see here. I don't think there was anything else up there. Anyway, so I could go ahead and I could find which one of these accounts had a missing value. And then I could just go ahead and push up just this one journal entry. And I could still do that with burst mode if I wanted to, but that would be done by using upsert selected record. And then I can go ahead and push that one up. So think of that versus what you would normally do with a CSV upload, which is you'd have to wait until you got the email letting you know that there was an error. It would show which records had the error, et cetera. Okay, so I am going to stop talking now. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin and just remind everyone, if you do have questions, please do make us aware of them. So Kevin, oh, you know what? I take it back. There is one other thing that I did want to show. Sorry, guys. I had promised that I was going to talk about the raw data download. So I'm going to come here and I want to run a NetSuite save search. So I click the menu icon. I go to save searches and I want to see all my transaction-based save searches. So I type transaction. And in this case, the one I want to run is the one with sales orders today. And I'm going to choose download as raw data. And what that does is it's going to just deliver the results just like they come pretty much straight out of NetSuite. We're not getting any of that metadata that you would be normally getting, which is all the pick list values. So in other words, all the item values, all the validation rules, et cetera. It's really just the raw data. And then once you have that, now you can come in and I don't know if this is going to give us any changes or not since the last time I ran this. It doesn't look like too many, but you can come in if you have pivot tables, charts, graphs, et cetera, based off of that data. Now you can just go ahead and manually update those. So keep in mind that that raw data download is a real fast way just to get data in if you need to reference it or if you want to start building reports or charts or graphs, et cetera, off of it. Okay, now Kevin, over to you.
All right, great. Awesome. Thanks, Chris. So let me just share my screen right here. Okay, cool. So for my demonstration, what I want to do here is I want to firstly create a sales order brand new within my sales order template right here on this tab. And eventually, once I create the sales order, it's actually going to go into this picking doc sheet, which is available for your warehouse. And once everything is picked, then that's where we're going to go into the fulfillment template to fulfill those items within that sales order. So the first thing here I want to do is I want to add in my customer. So I'm going to just add in Ace widget. Okay. And if you're going to be new to using CloudExtend, I'm going to repeat the customer basically to match the number of line items I have in column J. So for the items, I'm actually going to go into this master item sheet right here. Just for demo purposes, I'm going to just copy and paste my data. Oops, not that one. Okay, let me just copy it one more time. Okay, so once I have that information there, I'm also going to add a location. So I'm going to do Boston. I'm going to repeat this. The quantity, I'm just going to put 100 for all of them. And then for this specific demonstration for the newly created sales order, I'm actually going to make it a custom pricing or custom rate. So for here, let me actually just do 10 for all of them. But then under column M for price level, I am going to do a double bracket, -1, and I'm going to close it off with the double bracket here. So that's basically letting the system know that this rate right here is going to be a custom rate for your items for all of these quantities right here. And kind of going back into Chris talking about the amount field, that's the reason why I don't have that amount field here on my sales order template. It's going to be calculated once everything is uploaded from my sales order template into NetSuite. For tax code, I am just going to go into this pick list and kind of show you how it works. I'm just going to click on the first one. repeat it. And once I have all my information here, I'm going to go down to update. I'm going to do upsert all records without using burst upload, being that this is a pretty small upload. And as you can see, it's reading that it's one record that's being uploaded into NetSuite. And the reason why is because I've repeated the header level fields to match to the line items. So once I have this internal ID right here, I'm actually going to refresh, and it's going to pull in my transaction ID, which is going to be it's going to be a reference for my fulfillment template right here in just a moment. So let me just return that, as well as the transaction date and pretty much all the information that I need right here within the template. So once I have this sales order created, I'm going to go into my picking doc. I'm going to click on this button right here. I'm going to click on pick. This is just a very simple formula macro that I've created. And as you can see, it kind of basically pulls in all the information from my created new sales order tab, and it inserts into each of these columns right here. So for the quantity, I'm just going to repeat it to be 100. Once I have all this information right here, I'm going to go to fulfill, and I'm going to click on this big fulfill button right here. And as you can see, it pulls in my information from the created new as well as the picking doc as well too. So once I have everything there, I'm just going to go into column K, which is going to be a true false field, or the checkbox field within the item fulfillment within NetSuite. I'm actually going to make this true. We'll repeat this. Right before I hit upload into NetSuite, I want to talk about this replace all. So this replace all is actually very important if you want to do a partial fulfillment for any kind of transaction. So this replace all field would be available for all transactional templates within CloudExtend. So say for instance, if I only want to, let me just actually clear this these rows right here. I'm just going to do a partial fulfill for just the first 4 items. Okay, so I'm going to make this true. Replace all, I'm going to make it false, letting the system know that I'm not trying to upload for all 10 items. I only want to do it for the first 4 items. So right before I do that, I am going to go into NetSuite on my left-hand side right here. I'm going to pull up my sales order. And once I pull up my sales order, the status should be pending fulfillment. So when I click on this, you're going to see that it's going to be it's going to update the status of my sales order to partial fulfillment. So I'm going to go back here. I'm also going to click in and add in ship status is going to be shipping or shipped. I'll repeat this. Go to update, upsert all. And in just a sec, you're going to see the internal ID generate for this specific fulfillment right here. So once it's created, I'm going to go back into NetSuite on my left-hand side. I'm going to refresh. And you're going to see that this status right here is going to be pending or partially fulfilled. And if I go into my history and go to fulfillments, you're going to see that there is going to be a fulfillment record right there. I'm going to click on that and give it a sec. Bear with me. This is my TestRabbit account. You can see that these 4 items has been fulfilled. And it's going to be fulfilled for these locations right here. So going back into the sales order too, you're going to see that only the first 4 items of the 100 quantity is going to be picked, packed, and shipped and fulfilled right here. Okay, so that's going to be my demonstration of the sales order creation to a item fulfillment process. I'm going to pass it back to you, Chris.
Okay, great, Kevin. Thank you very much. Kevin, that's one of my favorite demos, by the way, when you show that. So I think for everyone out there, I mean, you could see, in a small scenario like that, not many people are going to go and use CloudExtend Excel to create one item fulfillment. But when you start using the macros that Kevin does and you start doing this at scale with a large number, you're really going to start saving a ton of time. Let's just talk a little bit about the CloudExtend Roadmap and how you can see what we're building. So inside of our Help Center, if you just come to the CloudExtend Excel for NetSuite, the first article you'll see gives a link to our roadmap. And on the roadmap, we talk about a few things. So customer submitted ideas that are up for vote. These are ideas that customers have submitted. We meet as a team once a month, and then we decide which ones of these, based on a number of factors, we should put up here for voting. And Then we take ideas over on that same period, and then we start moving them up in the chain a little bit. So these are ideas that we're more serious about doing because customers have started to upvote them. You can see a lot of these don't have votes right here yet, and that's because this entire portal is fairly new. We've made one announcement, and I think over time we should start seeing a lot more people start coming in here and submitting and upvoting on enhancements. And then if you want to see what we're actually building right now, this is what's under active development. And under released, you're not going to see a lot of information here. I don't think we're going to backfill this with all the stuff we did in the last year, but you will be able to come here and see, recently what was actually released. So the cool thing is you can now submit your own ideas. Just click Submit Idea right here, put in your idea, tell us how important it is, your email address, and you'll get an email back asking you to vote on, just asking you to confirm that that's your request. We also do have a YouTube channel. So for all of the CloudExtend apps, so if you scroll down a little bit, here is the CloudExtend Excel for NetSuite YouTube channel. So there's there's a few tips and tricks, and you can also view the entire playlist right here. So this goes through some of the tips that you may have seen today, and then some others as well. So to get an in-depth look at building macros, et cetera, you could go there. You did see our Help Center, and most of you existing customers should be familiar with our Help Center anyway. So that's a great place to get some tips. We also have our chat icon, which lives inside the bottom of the app. So if I come back here, the home page, you can click this chat icon, you can get help, you can search for articles, etc. And that same chat icon is available at the bottom of our Help Center. And we typically know who you are. So if you submit something here, you can get your response back either by email, or it's going to show up when you're on the help site or in the app. So depending on where you are when we send it back, that's where you'll see it. Okay. And last, you can just email cloudextend-support@celigo.com. All right, so now we're basically out of time. I'm going to just go through the questions, and I think this is going to have to be a lesson learned that we'll have to make this 45 minutes because the whole idea is to make this interactive. So if we don't get to your question right now, we do know who asked it, so we'll certainly follow up right after. But I see 4 questions. I'm going to try and rip through them as fast as I can. Is there a way to rerun the saved searches? So I think the person is asking about that sales order search that I ran and downloaded as raw data. So the short answer is right now you've got to go through that same kind of 4 or 5-step process every time you want to download it. We do have an enhancement request to make that process easier, so please upvote that. Next question, why wouldn't I want to use burst mode upload? And I think so for a small data set, then you'll kind of get the feel of this over time as to what kind of upstarts are fast, which ones aren't. So if you have, say, you're doing, even if it's a fairly large upload with just header level fields, you probably won't need to use burst mode upload for that. If it's small, I'm going to say 50 records or smaller, I wouldn't even bother with burst mode upload. But if you've got a lot of work to do, like in succession, and you don't want to wait that 3 or 4 minutes for even that to finish, then use burst mode upload. One thing I didn't mention about burst mode upload that's really cool, as long as you save your Excel workbook, you can actually close it while the burst mode upload is in progress. So let's just say you're submitting 20,000 records for an update. You can let that entire process run overnight, close Excel, and then when you come back the next day, open Excel, log into CloudExtend, and you'll get that update, and you can download all that information. So you don't need to be tied into staying into Excel. Okay, 2 more questions. Do you support updating item pricing yet? I think yet is the key word, and the short answer is we don't yet with this CloudExtend Excel for NetSuite app. We do still have a legacy app that does have support for that. It runs on Windows only. It's called the Classic Edition, or formerly known as the Smart Client. Everyone with an enterprise subscription to the app you saw today gets that for free as well. So if you do need to do some item updates, pricing, feel free to contact sales. We'll get you that app at no charge. We do have a plan to bring in updating item prices, fulfilling orders with lot numbers and serial numbers as well. We just haven't gotten that into the new app yet. And it's actually fairly complex. These are all like big sub-lists, like item pricing has custom pricing for specific customers, price levels, currencies, etc. So we need to find a better way to display that inside of Excel. Last question, unless there's any more, is what do I do? What happens if I leave the date field empty? If you leave the date field empty, or in some cases a lot of other fields empty, those fields typically will have a default value in NetSuite. So if a field has a default value in NetSuite and you leave it empty, that field will get populated. So if you create a sales order, say in NetSuite, you'll see that the date is always going to start as the current date. So if you leave it empty during an upsert, same thing for a journal entry, it will pick up the current date, and that's what will be populated. Okay. I think that's all the questions that we had. We would love to get feedback from you guys. Let's just pull up our information here. Feel free to email any one of us, because I want to make sure that these sessions are useful to everyone. Some of it's a little bit repetitive because we don't know who's coming on for each one. Maybe it's too repetitive. Someone can go in and just, look at office hours on the YouTube site and see something similar. So we're looking for some really good feedback because we want to make this better for everyone in the future. Okay, looking one last time for questions. None here. Sometimes people mistakenly put them into the chat instead. Let's go there. Okay, nothing there either. So I want to thank everyone for joining, and please do let us know how we did and what we can do better. And thank you so much for being a loyal customer.